HD here. This is a crispy t-shirt, and this is a OnePlus 8T. I'm using it for about 336 hours now. But this phone is kind of like an awkward middle child in its positioning. See, OnePlus already makes a flagship. Best phone they can make, flagship features, OnePlus 8 Pro, $899. But then they also already make a budget phone, right? The OnePlus Nord is trying to bring the price down as low as possible, $399. And both of those phones, I've said, are pretty great value for what you get for the prices that are available. But this 8T here in the middle is $749. $749. So it's not quite a flagship killer, but it's also not quite a really great budget phone. And so as a result, it's sort of squished awkwardly in this new area of really intense competition that's been heating up a lot lately. So for 8T, the main changes they've made for this phone are screen, battery, and cameras, which if you ask me are three pretty important pieces of a phone. And there's some other minor stuff too, and I'll point it out, but the rest is going to look very similar to the OnePlus 8. So as you watch this, I want you to think, for this price, would you rather have a pretty decent all-around phone or a phone that feels and looks just like a flagship but has a few things missing? Because this phone feels and looks a lot like a $1,000 phone, but with some things missing to get to $750. So it has a flagship spec. It's 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of fast UFS 3.1 storage, glass and metal, quad cameras on the back. But let's start off on the front with this display, because that is a new spec. It's the same size, a 6.55-inch display, but now it's a 1080p OLED at 120 Hz instead of 90. And so there's also a selfie camera cutout in the top left corner, and it's still flat. This isn't one of those bleeding over the edge displays. I love that it's flat. So a couple things. Thumbs up on the flat display, of course, from me. And I love 120 Hz. Everything feels super smooth and responsive. The touch sensor refresh is super fast, and it's actually a bit of a brighter screen too, peaking at 1100 nits. So it's very readable everywhere. But I can still tell it's not quite a flagship display. It has some rainbowing off-axis, which you don't see on the highest end displays, and it doesn't get quite as dim as the iPhone or the Samsung flagships. So that's something OnePlus has struggled with for a bit now. But really, for the most part, it's great. And the important part to OnePlus is that it looks just like a flagship display most of the time. Bezels are pretty thin all the way around, no notch, and the hole punch is pretty small in the corner. It's a pretty sweet screen. It reminds me of the S20 Fan Edition for this price, but without the weird little silver ring inside that selfie camera that Samsung put there for whatever reason. So thumbs up on this display. Then there is the battery, which is simultaneously my favorite and least favorite thing about this phone at the same time. So two things about the battery. One is it is slightly bigger. It's a 4,500 mAh cell now. And two, it supports what's called Warp Charge 65, which is this crazy fast charging. Now, dash charging has been a staple of OnePlus phones for years now. You know, their thermal management, their classic red cables, and the quick top-ups. That's basically something you can kind of take for granted in every OnePlus phone. With Warp Charge 65, it's leveling this up to be even faster. So now there's an even bigger 65-watt charging brick in the box with the 8T. And actually, believe it or not, the red charging cable that comes with it is just a little bit thicker, too. Just a little bit less bendable. Kind of reminds me of the newest HDMI 2.1 cables. So you have the new brick, the new charging cable, and then inside the phone itself, actually, instead of one big 4,500 mAh battery, it's two smaller batteries that add up to 4,500. So they charge faster in parallel, and we've seen this technology in Oppo phones as well this year. So combine all of that, and the result is you can charge from 0 to 100 in about 40 minutes. And so I did some testing of my own. I got it down to 10% battery, plugged in for 5 minutes, and it was up to 35%. And then after 20 minutes, it was at 78%. So it's pretty useful. Now, the biggest natural concern with this for me would be heat and battery health over time. For heat, it does get a little warm to the touch when you are charging this fast, and I guess that's not a surprise, but it doesn't ever really get hot or overheat or anything. And then battery health remains to be seen. There's not too many phones out there that have been out for a long time with this twin battery stuff, but I actually think that the built-in battery saving features, like limiting charge up to 90% until it thinks you're about to wake up and then topping off, stuff like that will likely help limit any potential long-term damage. But yeah, I love the super fast charging, and there's even this charging animation, and that might not be the actual charging speed, but that is something I've seen Oppo do, and it's a pretty good illustration of just how bonkers fast 65-watt charging is. And you know what the nice thing is? The battery life on this phone is also already pretty good. So I'm getting my usual 5 hours of high brightness screen on time. I also have the always on display, always on. And so yeah, I'm ending days around 10 to 20% battery like normal, no problems. And it's just that extra bit of confidence of knowing if you ever do get low, you can plug in for like 5 minutes and have a significant amount left of the battery. And also, in case you're wondering, the phone can fast charge with other chargers up to 27 watts, and this combo brick and cables will fast charge other non-OnePlus devices up to 45 watts. So that's pretty useful. So I just said a bunch of good things. Why is this also my least favorite part of the phone? There's no wireless charging. That's why. Again, the OnePlus 8 didn't have wireless charging. The 8T here also doesn't have it. Now, this might not be a huge deal for you. Depends on who you are, you know, what phone you're coming from. But if you don't have wireless charging now, maybe you don't care. But for me, I like wireless charging. I'm used to wireless charging. And also for $750, that's a pretty big checkmark missed when others in the area, you know, you think about Pixel 5, you think Galaxy S20 Fan Edition, you think the inevitable iPhone 12, all these phones will probably have or already have wireless charging. So then, the final big new thing, the cameras. And it's only really a big new thing because it's physically big. I actually think this was designed to deceive you. So on the surface, it looks like a pretty massive change. And it might not strike you immediately why, but this is what the OnePlus 8 camera looked like. And pretty much every other OnePlus phone for the past few years has always had this thin camera module stripe in the center of the phone. But OnePlus is competing with big dogs now, and they know it, so they've massively changed the camera module back here to look like the more expensive phones. So to me, if you like take the logo off of it, well, that starts to look kind of like some recent Huawei phones that go $4,000, right? So immediately your brain goes, oh, okay, this is a serious new camera. This is a big upgrade. But then, as soon as you start to look into it a little bit more, you realize it's not. First of all, this huge array is quad cameras and 2 flashes, so dual LED flash, which we used to see in more phones back in the day until we realized it makes almost no difference to separate the flashes. All flashes are kind of just harsh and bright pin lights in the same way anyway. And also, no matter what type of photo or video or flashlight I'm using, only one of them ever lights up for me. So there's that. And then the quad cameras are a 48 megapixel main camera, which is the Sony IMX586, which is the same sensor that was in the OnePlus 8, which is also the same sensor that was in the 7T. So that didn't change again. And then you have your ultra wide, which I'll give them credit for. It is a new 16 megapixel sensor, and nice and wide at 123 degrees. And then there's a 5 megapixel macro camera and a 2 megapixel monochrome sensor. So, okay, I've shot with these cameras for 2 weeks as I've used the phone, and again, kind of like last year, they're fine cameras. I like the tweaks they've made with the software to be a bit more contrasty, similar to Pixel's image processing, but at the same time, yeah, that's all the tweaks you can make is with the software, because it's just going to be those little adjustments with the same hardware. So this camera is reasonable with sharpness and autofocus and dynamic range, as you can see. Sometimes it misses exposure with darker skinned subjects like myself, but usually it's doing a pretty good job. Just a pretty good job. Now again, pretty good is fine for the camera for most people, but again, you got to go back to the competition at this price point now. At $699, a bunch of phones undercut this with better cameras. Pixel 5, better camera. Galaxy S20 Fan Edition, cheaper, better camera. And I think we can presume, based on iPhone 11, that iPhone 12 will also have a better camera. So if you are fine with pretty good photos, then that's fine. This is fine. But if you actually care about getting better photos or videos on your phone, then you're going to want to look elsewhere. So those are the 3 big changes on this phone. Outside of that, like I said, it's a pretty familiar phone, and that's a good thing. They're sticking with their button placement and the beloved alert slider. Love that. This one still has an optical fingerprint scanner, still has really good haptics, and still has a reasonable set of stereo speakers. The color's new. You've probably noticed this new minty green. It's called aquamarine green. Personally, I'm not a huge fan. It does a good job of not showing fingerprints, so I'll give it the credit for that. But I guess just the green and blue that it sort of switches between depending on the way the light hits it, just as my color, you know. And actually, the only other color this phone comes in is silver, which is going to look a little more like a mirror. So if you're wondering, wait a second, isn't there usually like a dark or a black version of like every phone, but not this one? Can I change that? And you're in luck. Yes, you can go stealthy with a matte black skin from channel sponsor D-Brand. You guys saw that one coming. But seriously, I also think the new colors on phones like this are also part of the whole make the phone look a different thing that OnePlus is doing with the camera. It's smart. This also happens to be the first phone I'm using for an extended period of time with Android 11 on it. It got here before Pixel did. And also it has the slightly controversial Oxygen OS 11 in tow as well. Now I say controversial lightly because, you know, they made some pretty noticeable aesthetic changes that people, of course, always react strongly to. You know, Oxygen OS has always been one of the cleanest variants of Android. This version 11 has taken a lot of cues directly from Samsung's One UI with like the big title text and then moving things down on the screen so there's big empty spaces. But the purpose of both is to make things more reachable and move them lower on the screen so you can get to them with your phone. So I personally don't mind it, since sure, it looks a little bit funkier sometimes, but I appreciate the reachability. And performance is still top-notch, still fast and smooth, and there's still all the awesomeness from all the features OnePlus has built up over the years, their dark mode and easy theming and icon packs and the great launcher, all that stuff. There's been a couple more bugs than usual with little animations with Android 11 here as they get, I guess, bouncier. I guess that's the word, but it's far from problematic, and I do trust that they'll be ironed out over time with software updates. And my favorite new feature here I'll just throw in is the always-on display, which has several themed options with like Bitmoji or artwork or other things if you want. This one I use, it just gives you a vertical bar representing how much you've unlocked and used your phone throughout the day, and then the time slowly moves down through the timeline as you go through 24 hours. I think it's pretty cool. So overall, what are we looking at here? I would call this a slight evolution, which honestly overall makes this a pretty good phone, but it's in this much more competitive landscape because of this middle tier pricing that we have going on now, and that makes it really hard to stand out. So the question I asked at the beginning of the video will answer if this is a good phone for you or not, which is, would you rather at this price have a pretty decent all-around phone in pretty much every way, or do you want something that resembles more of a flagship but with a couple things missing? Like, I think the S20 FE right now does a better job in almost every way of feeling like a more complete overall phone experience just because it has more features, but it's made of plastic. It doesn't quite feel exactly like a flagship the way something that looks like this and has metal and glass would. But also, S20 FE will probably have a better camera. And you look at Pixel 5 for the same price. Also gonna have a much better camera, and if you care about Android features, that's where you'll go. And also on the
Hi
iPhone 12 comes out, assuming it
everyone.
picks up where iPhone 11 left off, that's also where
Okay,
you'll
can
look.
you
And this
all
is just gonna
please
dominate because
turn
it's
on
tiny,
your
so this whole new
video
child
so we
requires
can
careful
do
consideration. But for
a
most
little
people, I would recommend
introduction? I
One
can
UI
see
between
who
the older
you
two
are.
phones.
And Akhil, you are the CR, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why don't you start with taking the attendance?
Anirudh,
Present team leader.
Ankit Kumar, Ankit Signa, Ankit Signa, Anushka,
Present.
Rudra,
Present.
Arishi,
Present.
Manushi,
Present.
Divyam,
Present.
Kanishka, Kanishka, she's there, right? Kitika,
Present.
Reena,
Present.
Preeti,
Present.
Hippie,
Present.
Mansi, Mansi,
Present. Present.
Rhythm, Rhythm,
Present. Present.
Sia,
Present.
Nikki,
Present.
Zeal. Did I miss anyone?
Present.
Navya present.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Ma'am, it's done.
Okay. Okay. How was your last class? Did you enjoy it? Did you make good work? And yeah, so one thing that's not going to work is all of you nodding because a lot of you, kind of will keep switching off your video. So even if you have to say yes or like or something like that, just unmute, say that, make any noise, mute it again, okay? So let me just go through stuff really quickly, what I expect. So at the end of these 4 days, I'll be expecting 2 full illustrations. Okay, we're going to be working with traditional mediums. Okay, and I will introduce the first assignment today. I expect it, to be at a good point tomorrow when we discuss it, and then submission will be the day after morning. And tomorrow I'll also introduce the second assignment so you can get a head start on it too. You guys have an advantage to the other batch in that you have Sunday. Okay? So it's up to you whether you want to work or not. I will not be expecting you to, be doing more work just because it's Sunday because it is a holiday. Okay. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I actually just finished my master's in illustration from the US a year ago, and I was working there in New York at a home textiles company. I was basically working on packaging and textile design, designing patterns for them. And I just came back recently, like in August. Okay. So let me, I don't know if you guys want to look, at my portfolio a little bit. I can show you a little bit of my work. Is that a yes or no? Or we can just, kind of jump in. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So there were a lot of other things that I couldn't catch up with the other batch. So I think it would be good to, because from my experience with the other batch, I couldn't actually get into a lot of discussion with, just hold on a minute. Okay, so whatever I kind of shared, so I hope you guys are kind of, you guys are discussing with your friends in the other batch. So I'm hoping that, if there's something that I teach you or you learn from me that they haven't learned, so you just share and kind of learn from each other, okay? So, okay, I'm going to open my website now, but I want you guys to kind of pick what you want to see, and I can talk about, like projects, whatever, and I can talk about them a little bit. Okay? Most of them are still academic projects because I haven't actually updated my website with any of my other work. But I think that should be fine because, we jumping into academics. I think academic work that I show you will be more helpful. Also, I'm not sure, how into illustration a lot of you are, or what your level or skill of like drawing and painting is, etc. So the point is like not to be intimidated by, all of these like really professional work, not mine, but like, even like outside that you see, okay? Like I was telling the other batch yesterday that see nobody posts their failures, right? So you don't know how many attempts they made and failed at it before they finally came to that one version that everybody thinks is like, like I can't do this ever. Okay. So okay, let me tell you something. So first day of my master's, so my undergrad is in architecture. I did it from set a long time ago, and then I kind of just took time off to just sit and paint. My grandfather was an artist, so just kind of took a couple of years off to just sit with him and paint. Okay, so I had 2 years worth of that practice before I actually got into my professional master's course. Even then, even so, I thought I was at a good level, and when I reached their first year of class, I kind of, was like, oh my God, I think they just gave me admission by mistake. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's going on, and all of these like other students in my batch, like a few of them were like producing like really professional work right from the second day. Okay. But I eventually got there, much before I think I could do it. Like my second year itself, our college used to send all of our, illustrations, they entered them in competitions. And I don't know if you guys are aware of this. So there's one called the Red Dot Communication Awards. Okay. It's like a very big design award that's hosted in Berlin. And I just like kind of won that in my second year, and it was a huge surprise to me, but also like a really uh, good, I guess, boost that okay, I put in all this work and I have made, really good progress. Okay. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. So, I want you guys to like, when you look through it, if you want to open it on your computers too, you can tell me what projects you want me to talk about. I'll pick a couple that I can go through too. And we'll also talk a little bit more about like the kind of markets and what use Illustrate, where it's used and why it's such a diverse field. Mhm. So this is basically like my portfolio website. This is the one that kind of art directors look at, the work at magazines, newspapers, publishing houses, things like that. So kind of just direct them to this so they can see what my work is, and how kind of do things. So with me, I kind of like doing things like very intricate. All of my work is, pretty busy. There are a lot of things going on. Yeah. So this is all illustration. So I kind of also dabble in other kinds of design, so like on top here, you see these are like user interface designs a little bit. This is like branding and identity. This was one like it was a collaborative project that I'd done when I was in school for those innovation labs. It's a big like home improvement company. These are murals I did. This one is actually right here. Honest Restaurant in Ahmedabad. That's one of Panchwati. So that's it. Then typography. Well, basically, when I say type, it's more like hand lettering. So that's another form of illustration too now. So it's kind of different, but it's basically kind of like drawing and painting letters instead of art forms. So these are kind of stuff I did. A lot of them are like personal stuff that I put on my Instagram. Okay? These are like planner sticker sheets I did. So then, of course, there's motion. So once you create, an illustration, you can also like, animate it. This was one of the first motion pieces I did. It's all in watercolor. Do you guys want me to play it? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's not like particularly finished, but I think for watercolor, it was pretty cool. You can turn the volume up. It's a little bit creepy. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's going to play. Okay. Yeah. What are you kidding me? What is that? Okay, it's supposed to like loop after that and kind of blink again and go back to the first scene. Okay, so all of those layers that you see moving around, so they're all painted like different layers in watercolor, and kind of put it, clean them up in Photoshop and put them in After Effects to animate. Okay. Um, then there's like patterns. So, that's what I did with my full-time job in New York at a textiles company. This is all of my personal work. Obviously, their work is under like a non-disclosure agreement, so I cannot share that. But these are like, some of the patterns I did. And so kind of like you can see illustration has like diverse applications, okay? So when it comes to like design type, motion, and illustration, obviously, forms like a little part of it. I'll go back to the main illustration tab in a little bit. So let me show you how, okay, let's look at this one. So a lot of these patterns are part of my master's thesis, where I was looking at kind of raising awareness for animal conservation through surface design. So another, well, I guess more of the industry term for patterns is surface design. Okay. So here you can see these are all endangered coral species, which before my thesis I did not know was a thing. They're kind of like getting bleached, so that's what kind of like where I used pen and ink. You see, also all of these things they're kind of done by hand. Okay, so pen and ink strokes, and then these are just like vector shapes in illustration. So with my artwork, I combine traditional and digital. Okay? And most of the way I used digital is as a tool to help me move, kind of enhance my traditional work. So same thing with here. So with patterns, it's like you have a main and then you have coordinates. Okay. So think of it like if this was bedding, okay, this would be like the bed sheet. So you have the, the star of the show, and these would be kind of like, let's say, pillow covers, or it could be upholstery, your curtains could be this some quiet or, simpler. So even this is like a species of coral, and have little fishes here. These are based on waves in the ocean, so it kind of also forms an abstract form. And here, so kind of do mock-ups to actually show the application of that illustration. So I just put it on clothing here. So, since this is the way kind of work coordinates work. Okay. Let's go back and then show you the, maybe, maybe this one. You guys can like point out anything you want me to show you, okay? So again, main one and coordinates, and I just applied them a lot of like, clothing, etc. And then you have colorways. So kind of with patterns, especially, do have to work with different colors. I'm sure you must have seen that in like, real life, like if you go to a store, to buy clothing, whatever. So if you don't like the color of one thing, there may be other options with the same pattern. So that's how it works. Okay. So, when I say surface design, so this is what it means, that it's supposed to kind of go on surfaces like that. Okay. And then, of course, you have the huge children's market. Okay. So obviously kids love drawings and illustrations. So let's say the penguins, again, endangered species of penguins from around the world. So I gave them kind of like fun colors, and it's like, kind of made a back to school collection for kids. So you have like backpacks, water bottles, okay? And again, main and coordinates. So I have like this abstract kind of thing made of fishes. And then these are made of mountain forms, from Antarctica. Another couple of backpacks. Let's see. Yeah, I really like this. So kids bedding is like a huge market for that. Just quickly show you these. So, again, like I said, main and coordinates for bedding like that. And then I have like, well, it's technically not a different colorway, but it's kind of the same icons. We can reuse them for that. Let's see. So again, kids bedding kind of, and I also use that as wallpaper. So that's another, market in itself, like interiors. So kind of mark this up as wallpaper. Yeah. So you see right there. So you also have upholstery, so like the cushions there, a one pattern, and then the statement pieces. So that's like one thing. Let's see. Okay, let me show you this. Okay, so this one. And we'll take a look at the dogs. So this was done in collaboration with two friends, but it's basically kind of designing like a masthead for a magazine newsletter sort of thing that's posted. So it's for AARP. It's a company in the US that's kind of, for the older generation, like 50, 55 plus, kind of provide them support, insurance, things like that. So, and these are spot illustrations we did. So this one, for example, kind of signifies financial goals. That's where it goes on their website. So, and this one was more for medication. And a few of them were kind of like, so this is not necessarily illustration, that it goes from an illustration to more like iconography. So you kind of have the whole set of things that kind of goes from their website masthead to, let's say, a little, spot illustration that goes to, the, I don't know what you call them, but those little, okay, suggested things or whatever on website. And then even like this. And then these here would probably, kind of like translate into things on the app because you have like smaller, what you call virtual real estate, but it's an app on your phone. So same as that. These were murals did for a dog spa. Again, with like a few other friends, we kind of chose walls. So these are individual cabins, and the brief was to create like a very zen space for them. And so they were like very muted color palettes, and they didn't actually want any dogs there, so it was just like an idea of putting very tranquil landscapes behind on the walls. So this was like adjoining pens. So if there were like two dogs, the same owner brought them in. So there was like a little doorway between the two pens that the two dogs kind of go through. So my mural kind of continues from one to the other, like that. And then there's like the standalone one. So this is what it actually looks like. It's just a glass door, and the dogs kind of sleep in there. And this was another. So this is kind of like the proposed thing, and then it was simplified down to this on site. So that's how it works there. I'm not sure whether I have good pictures of this one or even completed ones, but yeah, this was for, yeah, they're just work in progress. So this was like the design I kind of showed them for approval, and then work on site in progress. Yeah, I don't have like completed pictures. Okay. There was kind of like filling up a whole panel like that, and it included hand lettering and all of their like food in neon colors. So that's kind of like those things. So here I want you guys to pick a couple that you want me to talk about. I'm gonna scroll down, okay? Okay, somebody has to volunteer. I need you guys to speak up.
Can you Hello.
Yes. Yeah, go on.
Ma'am, I would like to see the V, the illustration.
Mm, the what? Sorry. We?
V.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is done entirely in watercolor. Okay. This was, and so I was just thinking of this one a few weeks back, or like, a couple of months back, I don't know. And it seemed so relevant, kind of like looking at, the news from Italy when the pandemic happened and the lockdown happened, uh, that people were, kind of like singing and dancing in the balconies. And I'm like, oh, I've been there like years ago. So yeah, like I said, my background was architecture. So I really like drawing things in isometric when I can. The task, so kind of like just, it opens in. Let me see. Okay. Yeah, so it's just, everything is empty, kind of like a desolate place, and you just having this guy serenading the girl. And it's all done in watercolor. I use a lot of masking fluid while doing this, and it's like layers upon layers of different tones. So, like, you see here, this spot, for example, you can see the pinkish tones below the blue. So, kind of like this was the pink layer I put originally, then put masking fluid on top and put the blue, like a wash of blue. I maybe what I'm saying, like the terms maybe a little lost on you guys, but I'll kind of try and demo what I mean. Okay, so here, so these are value, it was like a value study I did, then a color composition, another one, and a third one. So kind of put in the process there too. So today I'm going to take you through all of these stages, which we are going to follow. Okay. So anyone else?
Mom, can you show the New York one?
The New Yorker? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is not an actual New Yorker cover. Okay, just a disclaimer. So I like, you know, basically the, yeah, I guess you could say like I love animals, but I try to work, towards animal conservation as much as I can. So this was one of the things that, kind of I really wanted the New Yorker to show. Well, New York, when I was living there, they had a lot of furriers. So basically, like stores that sold fur, and it really disturbed me a lot. So what I have here is kind of like this human form, that's jumping with joy, but it's actually a cage in which all these foxes are trapped, so they're very distressed. And I kind of used the masthead, that's what, the heading is called, and use kind of wove that into my illustration. So that one fox on top is actually trying to break free and kind of hold on to the O for support. And yeah, I also kind of like, I like to mock up things, especially so that you can kind of like understand. So people who are not in the field do understand what the application of illustration. Okay, it's illustration is commercial art, so it is meant for end product or end use most of the time. So it's not just like a painting that you put on the wall. Okay? That's one thing that kind of differentiates it from fine art. Okay, anyone else?
Ma'am, the next one to V.
I'm sorry, which one? I didn't get that.
The next one to V. You showed it.
This one to me? Okay. Yeah, this was like a personal project I did. So I saw this beautiful, image of the city in Mexico called Guanajuato. And they had like all of these little, houses. Okay, let me see if I can show you. They're like very colorful. Okay, so that's like the flat plane of the city. And it's like one of, that's what the houses look like. So it's like a, like a hilly area, and then you have the valley there, and the valley kind of expands out onto the hills. So to the houses. Let's see if there's anything. Yeah, like that. Okay. another one like that. So that really inspired me to kind of so I keep doing a lot of personal projects too. Okay. So I kind of researched a bit into it, and what came out from that was there's this like local touristy thing or like legend there. So it's called El Calle del Peso. So it means the alley of the kiss. So there, so the houses there are like clustered together. Right? So there's like this alley there, which is very like narrow. Okay, you have these little steps. So there were the apartments or houses there. They had these two balconies. Okay, that almost touched. So two people could stand, there. So kind of, I guess, lean. Okay, let me just show you. It's better. Visuals are always better than words, right? Oh, wait, I'm writing that. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so there is this story that went with that. So that's the actual alley. Those are the two balconies. Okay, so right there. Yeah. So it was like there was this wealthy, I guess, landowner there living in one of the houses, and he had a he had a daughter, and she kind of fell in love with this. I think he was a coal miner, so they wanted to be together, but obviously, her father wouldn't allow that. So what he did was like kind of rent the apartment opposite there, so they could just stand on the balcony and meet each other and kiss. So one day, what happened was her father saw that, and he kind of flew into a fit of rage, and I think he either killed the guy and his daughter or something like that. So basically, it's kind of said. I think there's a curse over the place or something like that. But anyway, there's this whole story about that. So, where did it go? Okay. So I kind of wanted to incorporate, that kind of idea into this poster too. So let's talk from the beginning. So on top, I just have the name of the place, of the city. Okay, but I kind of hand lettered it to kind of if kind of search Mexican culture, they have these like really nice buntings or pendants that are paper cuts. So I kind of used the same idea and created the little letters and kind of using negative space to show the legend of the alley of the kiss. So if you look at it like more. Okay, so Forest Street is obviously, the hills and the city. You have the trees there on the hills, and there's like kite flying, so it kind of gives the atmosphere of the city. But on the second read, okay, so the way the human mind works is you always, recognize patterns, and especially there's a term for it. I keep forgetting it. Human features. Okay, so kind of recognize and it clicks that, oh, that's a face. And a lot of things. So if you see, like how you kind of recognize patterns of let's say, oh, that cloud is a dog or that cloud is like an elephant, sort of, and exactly how, some people see a human face in the moon and others see this bunny with rice cakes or something. So that's how it works. So here, do you see that? Those are the two lovers kissing. Can you guys see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, from afar, first read is that, oh, it's just a hill and stuff, but then it's like the faces of the two of them. And you kind of using the shapes of the buildings to, form their structure. So here, the dome forms the chin and the neck, underside, and the shape of the buildings kind of forms the chest, So he's leaning over. That there is the shoulder, kind of bring it down to the shape of, of the arm. That's the other arm. So it doesn't have to be very clear. It's very vague, but still, as long as that clicks, the rest does fall in place. So That's the other arm of the girl. Okay, that's her leg, kind of forming the street. I do feel so. So, like I said, you're always learning when you're doing illustration. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no perfect answer. So every time I kind of look at some of my work, I'm like, oh, I can do so much better. So even with this, I'm like, I can define the values better to kind of make the form stand out. Let me show you another one. So
Ma'am,
yeah.
was there any reason like the dominance of magenta and like reddish tones in the whole composition?
Not really. So, oh, wait, okay, hold on. You mean by magenta, do you mean all the pinks?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, not really. So, when I was looking at the reference photos, okay, a lot of them had like all sorts of colors. They were very bright and kind of just, all over the place. So, the idea when you do illustration is you can take creative liberties, okay? So, I kind of always when I try to do illustration, I do like to represent what is there most of the time or like pick up on that. So my first take on this was to actually, make it a full color thing. Let me just see if I can find that, what I did earlier, so you get more of an idea. Okay, just bear with me for a minute. Okay. Mm, Yeah, is it? No. Yeah, I don't think I have it on here, but okay, I'll try to explain as best as possible. So when I tried that, it became a whole jumble of things, okay, because I was trying to follow exactly what was there. So a lot of times what looks okay or good in photos does not necessarily work for your idea or your concept. So for me, when I put that there, if it was just me showing the city, that would be fine. But because I wanted there to be like, 2 points of focus in terms of, the city first and then the hill, the city was just grabbing all the attention for all the wrong reasons. So one of the ideas when you do illustration is, I've seen a lot of illustrations have just like very limited colors. So that takes away a lot of your problems when you're trying to create a focal point and trying to make the viewer feel at ease with what to look at first, what to look at next. So once I removed, a lot of the other colors, I was left with a lot of like reds and pinks. And that also worked and I kind of amplified on that too. I put in more reds and pinks. So you have like more of a monotonous color scheme. But obviously you don't just want that monotony because I was also trying to show that colorful, culture of the city and what Mexico is generally known for. So that's why I kind of broke up all of that with these like teal blues, turquoise, the yellows, and the one of the reasons for picking up the pink was I find very few chances to actually work with pink tones, especially like bright fuchsias or like colors like that. So when I get an opportunity to do that, I just grab on. There's also that other thing of like, so once you start doing work, like creating a lot more artwork, you kind of you may have seen, so a lot of illustration artists have their own unique style. Okay, I like to call it more of a unique voice, but then they also kind of start preferring a set of colors that they work with. So with me, I did start working with a lot of blues. You may see them in a lot of my work. So this was also a chance to kind of break away from. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me show you another one. So you know the one I told you I won that big award for? This is that one, again, kind of using the idea of negative space. So you guys understand what positive and negative space is, right?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
Yes,
no?
ma'am.
All of you? Is there anyone who doesn't understand? Okay. So, what do you guys see here? Let me just, it's just, what do you guys see here?
Yes, ma'am.
No, not yes, like what do you see? That was the question. It's
Ma'am,
not a
a
yes or no answer.
lady,
Feel
a lady in the
good.
negative space.
Okay, exactly. So, kind of, has anyone seen the movie Memoirs of a Geisha or read the book? No? So it's, do you know what a geisha is or who a geisha is?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, go on. Okay, they weren't exactly escorts. It's a whole culture of like entertainment and hosting. Okay, so they basically hosted well, in the modern sense, I would say that they kind of hosted parties and took care of guests, things like that. So it's a whole culture, and they kind of went in for all of these like what we call training. So they have to learn how to dance, they have to learn how to sing, you know. So it's like a whole cultural movement that Japan saw, I think, around the time. I think it kind of ended around the time of the Second World War, it tapered off. So this book, it was like the memoirs of a geisha, you know, so a lady who had then moved to New York after the war, and she kind of relates her whole story. I think it is fictional. Okay? It's written by, sorry, it's written by English, I think British or American author, and there's like an Oscar-winning movie that was made. So this was a class assignment too. We were supposed to design like a poster based on like a movie that we like. So I kind of chose this, and so you know, when you talk about the process of the thing, so let me just talk you through it. So the first thing I kind of did was research what's already in the market. So, you know, I was looking at book covers for the book because it's pretty prolific. Okay, so and I looked at all the posters for the movie, and almost all of them showed either the geisha right there, because she's the protagonist of everything, or it was maybe abstract or stuff, or it should show her face. So I wanted to kind of move away from that because that's already been done, right? So why would you just kind of repeat the same thing? That's what I tried to direct my thinking towards. Like, you research what's already been done, and then you kind of find the gap in the market of what can be done. So I obviously had read the book through, and sometimes, when you work with projects like that, information is power. So it gave me a lot of knowledge about, like, okay, the whole thing happens in this district called Gion. I mean, the story of the book, right? It's set in this district called Gion in Kyoto Prefecture in Japan, and Gion has a lot of these like wooden houses that have blue roofs. Okay, there's a mention of water a lot of times. You know how we have, well, not we, but like I guess Chinese culture has a lot of these elements, like, fire, water, that they kind of join with yin and yang and stuff. So Japan also has their own system like that. So the protagonist just kind of said as having a lot of water. And she doesn't like to stay stable in one place. She's always flowing like water all around. So that kind of made me decide early on that one of the ways to kind of bring that in as a meaning to the entire thing was to stick to that color scheme and make blue more prominent. So even with all my color compositions that I work with, or color schemes, let's call them that, so I kind of chose blue to be more of a focal. So it was like, and then what happens is then you sit down to see all of these like materials that you've researched, and then you sort of start writing down words to Okay, so like, what was it that caught my eye, or like, what is the main idea of the book that I can show? So water was one of the themes, the architecture, because most of the things happens in this district, so that's very crucial to show the protagonist and the story moving forward. Okay, obviously there's the whole art form of being a geisha that's there. So kind of all of those things. So I'm like kind of picking on things. So, and then you start doing thumbnails, right? So thumbnails, little sketches, and you basically like word vomit, but visually. Okay, whatever is in your head, just draw it down, scribble, sketch. Pretty much keep the proportion of the final piece you're doing, so you don't make promises you can't keep up. So with that, I kind of came up with this idea. Oh, what if I just use, the houses to show the the form of the geisha. So I kind of ended up moving forward with that idea and building on. Okay, so that's how I kind of came up with it. And then you have the whole thing about the value structure. Okay, value is basically the amount of light and dark, right, that you determine in an illustration. So I kept the houses more on the dark side, and so the lighter side became actually the kind of like a meeting place. So there was also a marketplace where the protagonist really liked to go in the book and the movie. To kind of put that there, and then I put these little figures, so that doesn't look empty and it actually seems more like as a part of the scene rather than just a negative space shape. And another thing is, you can think of taking it to the next level. So geishas, okay, their like get up consists a lot of times of this. Okay? This is a flower on their head. See with that stuff trailing down? That's called a kanzashi. So your this little figure with her parasol or umbrella, that kind of takes on the form of the kanzashi. So you have the whole bunch of flowers and the thing trailing down, the little buds or flower buds. So it kind of replicates that shape. So just put like a tiny figure there, approximately, in the same area that it would be on their head. Let's see another. Sorry. Let's see another. See right there. Okay. So people, who've seen or know about, what or who a geisha is, they immediately, it clicks. Oh, that's what it's showing. Okay. So also when you put the kanzashi there, it's not just any other Japanese lady in a kimono. A lot of times only geishas wear this. So that's how it kind of all ties in together. Okay? And obviously, this was supposed to be a poster, so just put in type, etc. Marked it up as a book cover too. Okay, so it kind of just ties in the whole project together, even if you do like a person. Okay,
Ma'am, in what medium did you do this?
so this is, let's see. Mistake. Yeah, so this was the whole background is a watercolor wash. Okay. At that point, I didn't have much time because I was trying to do a really huge. So one thing about commercial illustration, um, our final output for that one was supposed to be 20 by 30 inches for the poster. And I actually started painting 20 by 30, which was a big mistake on my part because, 2 days for submission never could have finished, right? So I did end up using digital media to color in the roofs and the ladies. But this is all watercolor wash. Oh, it's not zooming in. But do you see the texture of the watercolor paper and the
Yes,
wash?
ma'am.
And the lines are all pen and ink. Okay, so I just recolored them digitally in Photoshop. So another one, let me show you this. Okay, let's show you a couple of other applications. Okay, so these are packaging illustrations. Okay, this is kind of like advertisement. obviously, book covers, publishing, is a huge market for illustration. Another packaging one. And these are like personal ones that I did, after the pandemic. These are
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ma'am, what about the illustration of afterlife?
Afterlife, sure, I can talk about that. Okay, let's just quickly go through these, okay? So this is actually, what medium do you think this is done? Any guesses?
Is watercolor and digital media, I guess, both.
Yes. So let me see if I can show you. So this is a scarf. Okay. It was again part of my thesis. So it's endangered coral. So that's like a vector shape forming the border, and the mermaid is kind of like, guardian. She's kind of guarding a few coral that's left that hasn't bleached out. Okay. So you kind of have what do you call it? The very bright coral colors and kind of all of these kind of start fading out. So this watercolor, okay, so the color that you see is not digital. So the way I often work is I do a grisaille painting. So it's like an underpaint. Okay? So I paint the whole thing in, let's say, black and white. Okay? Then I kind of scan it and clean it up and put color on top of it and to kind of make it. Because at the end, we do need to digitize a lot of work when we work commercially. So that's how it's done. I'll try and see if I can bring it to class. I actually have the scarf. So I'll try and see if I can bring it to class tomorrow and show you guys on the screen. Okay. So grisaille is one thing I did want to go through in the class. So we'll see if we have time. Okay. But I feel it's a very useful medium, especially when you need, for surface design, you need a lot of color changes. Okay. It also works well for packaging. So this was like for packaging, so it's like saffron, because it's like, so I kind of wanted to do like a gift box. Saffron is very expensive commodity. It's kind of rare. So the whole idea, so I kind of made a template for it too. Okay, this is from scratch. Again, because of my architecture background, to know how to generate, things like that. I guess I did model making for my classes, so do know how that works with packaging. So it's like a whole box that kind of goes like this, like a drawer, and slides into the sleeve. So this is what the top looks like. Okay. So when it's on the shelf, if it's put upright, you see this, and kind of choose the name for those. And these are all watercolor. And this is what the front looks like. So this is digital. So kind of digital. So kind of mix the two videos here. Maybe you can see it better. So, these are hand-drawn lines and just put them in Photoshop and just put like lighter opacity white color behind it. So when it mixes up here, okay, we have the watercolor and then we have like a digital / line drawing in. And then I also took some of these parts, like the statements, and made a pattern to go on the rest of the box, like a texture. This one is kind of like advertising. So Cirque du Soleil is like a performance group in the States. Okay, they kind of do these acrobatic acts and stuff like that. So this is Marillion. So I kind of wanted, they have like a lot of different themed shows, especially in Las Vegas. So I kind of wanted to so the Silmarillion. I don't know if any of you know that, but the Silmarillion is J.R.R. Tolkien's book. He's the same guy who wrote the Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, etc. So it's like this epic, really epic book. So I wanted, kind of like a fantasy of mine to have Cirque du Soleil perform the Silmarillion and the characters from that. So I just kind of took off from there and kind of gave the, wow, I'm saying kind of a lot. Anyway, I did give the characters, different looks and then gave them a color scheme. So this lady here, she's supposed to be the goddess of plants and trees and growth. So, green is her color. So she's the one who sports green. And this one here, he's the Manway, I think, king of, the skies. I think so. It's all blue. This one here, Aule controls the earth and he builds mountains and stuff. So he has more earthy tones. This guy is the villain. So, he kind of, so even like compositionally, you see, all of them doing stunts and this guy is just the face. So kind of like a banner that goes across hoardings, or like a bus like that. Okay. And I also put it on an airplane. And then you kind of use the same illustration to repurpose into, you change the composition, okay? One thing I do is even when I paint, so these are all painted in watercolor, I paint them separately on different layers. So they're easy to edit. You guys are not going to be doing that right now. You're painting on separate layers. One of the fundamentals to learn is how to work in one composition together, okay? Okay, this one is definitely purely digital. Okay, it's chocolate packaging we did. Again, the endangered species in theme. There is this chocolate brand in the States called Endangered Species. They donate like 10%, of whatever you buy to conservation projects. So I just wanted to, but their like packaging was really rubbish. So I just wanted to kind of put my own spin on it. So I have this tiger. So this is like one of the signature things I do with these little whiny leaf things. I have made a tiger. So this one represents the earth. This is an otter. So it represents the water. And then you have an owl. So there's a beak and eye. And it represents the sky. So I kind of put in three, I guess, major groups there and knock them out. So that's your chocolate there. Afterlife. So the prompt was actually ghosts. This was my first assignment in class when I started learning illustration. And it took me 3 days just to do this because I ended up drawing, there are 99 humans here, I think. And I ended up stippling the whole piece. Okay, sorry, that's a really bad photo. But yeah, so it took me 3 days straight to just tipple, the hell out of all these guys. And then I just ended up putting in color digitally. I did find a poem online that went very well with it, so I just marked it up with that. When you guys use things online, please be sure to credit, their authors, okay, original creators. So just put his name there as well. But yeah, you see, so that's like a stippled piece. That's all the ink there, and then I just put color in digital. So all of those are like little dots that I actually drew by hand. And one of with what do you call this, micro tip pens, right? So my whole idea was with Afterlife, that there's like this portal and all of these people are walking towards it, just heading in one direction and kind of like following the herd mentality. And there's only like this one lady here who's just turning back and kind of like looking at the viewer and seeming to like, stop in there and think about it a second. Like, am I doing the right thing? Because when they go there through the portal, they don't know what's happening. So if you see here, they start off becoming like, these shadowy figures. There's more definition here in the center, but as they kind of goes out, they sort of start dissipating, you see? So they lose their corporeal form. So in my mind, that's, how ghosts work. Or like, that's how afterlife works. They gradually just fade away into energy or nothingness. Okay, is that enough of the work going around? I don't, yeah. Yes, no? Anything else you want to see? Anyone?
Ma'am, can you tell us about next to mermaid life?
This one?
Mermaid, yeah.
Okay, activity. This was another class project. We're supposed to do like, I guess like a promotional poster, okay, but for our future self. This is supposed to be me, okay. I drew like really weird angles, so also yes, my baby hands because that's what they look like. Um, so I was kind of like, thinking. So whenever you start a piece, you think about a bigger idea. So I work conceptually. Okay, we'll discuss that in a little bit. Conceptual illustration, but I work conceptually a lot. So with conceptual, it's like the hero is the main idea. Okay, what's your concept behind it? And you don't want to show it exactly how it is. So for me, I was thinking, oh, let's say this was like a poster for myself or for my work or showcasing me in 10 years. If I think of it, oh, in 10 years, this is where I want to be. I want to be like a prolific artist, a prolific illustrator. I want to do these projects, have dream jobs. So one way of showing that would be like, oh, I could show like huge studio space. I would be working. Maybe I have a team of, if I have like a design studio, maybe I have a team of illustrators or graphic designers working. So it could be just that, a scene, a setting, a narrative, right? Like I'm just telling that story. The other way to show it is through another idea, like metaphorically. So here I'm talking about like acclivity. So an acclivity is like, an upward slope. Okay, so when you think of it conceptually, that's what I wanted to do. So I'm starting here, but I do want to go move upwards. Okay, so as an idea, that's what I chose. So when I kind of started doing it, I was thinking, oh, what actually shows an upward slope? Okay, so obviously mountains, very literally, right? So I put that in as one word. Okay, but then I'm like, what is it that I am actually working to? Okay? So after like a lot of brainstorming, I kind of came up with this idea that I'm actually climbing over myself to become a better version of myself, right? A better version of my artwork too. So that's what I tried to show you. So these are all rock faces, it's like a valley and you see the sky at the end. So the idea is to reach that. And I'm just trying to grab hold of, all of these little nooks and crannies that are on the faces and move upwards. You also need, so when you talk about conceptual illustration, you also need context. This was inspired by a trip I made, recently before I did this piece to Antelope Canyon in the States. I think it's somewhere around the Grand Canyon and it looks like this. Okay, you see that? It has a lot of like colors. So in the canyon, the way that there are a lot of these terraces, so the way the light, filters in, you see all of these shades of purples, yellows and stuff like that. Okay, it's really beautiful. So it was very inspirational. You see, the forms, you have this, whole canyon, just you see a peak of the sky. So when I go back to my illustration, that's what I kind of tried to use. So it became at once a stylistic device, kind of brought back to that inspirational place I went to, and it also brought in, what I wanted to show, tidying over the boxes. Yeah, just knocked it up. Because of course I'll have a green carpet at my show. Okay. Do you think that's enough discussion for now? Okay. So ideally, I would like you guys to, bring your work to this finish when you're done. But we have 4 days, okay? And realistically, it's pretty hard unless, it takes years of practice to get this. But we'll try to do our best, okay? So let's see. Okay, so I need a little bit of input from all of you as to where you want to start because obviously, you studied with Prasenjit sir. So I don't want to like spend time on repeating things you've already discussed or and know. So we can move forward and focus on learning other things. So did you possibly discuss what illustration is, what its applications are? Anyone?
Ma'am, we did discuss what illustrations are. We didn't go very deep into uh, like the usage and like the corporate sector, how it is used in the real world.
Okay. I'm not sure if we would actually have time to cover all of that. I do want to spend a little bit more time in actually discussing your actual work, because I think it's very important to actually build up a strategy. Um, so I'm obviously, will be trying to teach you the way I learned it and how I work, okay? Because I think that helps, kind of build that focus and direction very well. Um, okay, let's just start the way I kind of did it with the other batch, okay? And if you guys think that okay, you've already been through this whole thing, then just skip it and start move ahead. Okay? So let's talk about. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen again. Did you guys have submission yesterday? Come on, that's an easy answer. Yes or no?
It's on Sunday, like the deadline is on Sunday.
Okay, okay,
12 noon.
okay. Yeah, just wanted to, ask if you had enough rest. Oh, before I share that, let's just let me try and show you the grisaille thing so you have a little idea. Because I end up forgetting. Just a minute. Okay. Yeah, I guess let me just show you this. Is your screen blank now? Yeah. Never mind. Okay, so basically this is what grisaille is. Let's see. You see it? Oh. Okay, so this is what grisaille is. This is a PNG. It's for a friend's logo that I did. So it's watercolor. So you see, it's basically like grayscale, right? Kind of just, oh, sorry. Yeah, so just like a grayscale painting, the same with the linear, okay? So wherever I want more color to actually show is where I leave more white space, and wherever I want like, I guess more shadows, I put in darker tone. Yeah. So when I finally put in color, it's what, it's what it ends up looking. Obviously, I made a few changes to the shape, but after I did that, but that was like my quiz eye, and that was the final. Okay. So all of those markings, they actually take color and value from the underpaint. So here's another color I did for you. Sorry, it's too small. All of my stuff is in the cloud, so it'll take a while to download. Here's a third one. Okay, so different color schemes for them. So I just basically, yeah, so with the lily, okay, that was our black and white, it was a lily, and this was the watercolor. So all of this is just watercolor. I just literally just plunked in a color in digitally, and I can end up changing it. So if I wanted like a whiter one, I can manipulate the color because I already have my value structure. You have a more like cooler pink, okay? So I don't know if it's like, something you understood, but if you don't, I can actually demonstrate it too. Okay, let's talk about this piece. What do you think the illustration is trying to show? This is by Owen Davey. He's a British illustrator. He works in very like geometric forms. And if you've discussed with your classmates from the other batch, you probably already know. Also, did some of you from the other batch actually join the meeting? Anyone? Anyone from Group A? Come on. So I'm going to start rolling my eyes at you guys. Am I on mute?
Ma'am, what was your question?
My question is, what do you think the illustrator is trying to tell you? What's happening? Even a description is okay.
So, ma'am, I think the girl is really sad or something and just sleeping to just let go of something else. And the sunlight is coming over her to just show the feeling.
Okay. What else? Anyone else? Come on, quickly. What is it telling you? It's very simple. There's no right or wrong answer. You can have different answers. Just tell me what you think. Guys, girls, come
Ma'am,
on.
it feels like she's sad and like running away from something and is sad.
Okay.
Basically.
What time of the day do you guys think it is?
I think it's winters going on and it's a sunny day in winters.
Okay. Why do you
Like
think it's
one
winter?
sunny, because it's all blue and dark, but then there's one sort of ray of hope, which is like sunlight.
Okay. Anyone else?
It might be like a late evening because the sun rays are like very orange.
Can you please speak up? Your voice is very
Oh, sorry,
like
ma'am.
yeah.
It might be like a late evening because the sun rays are like very orangish.
Okay. Now why is she in bed?
Same answer, ma'am. She might be sad about something and she's just looking outside the window.
Okay. Anyone else?
Ma'am, I feel like the girl is in any sort of pain or something.
Okay. What kind of pain? Like emotional or physical?
I mean, it can be any because her position shows that it can be also a physical pain, maybe.
Okay. So let me tell you what I think. When I first saw this, I was like, oh my God, she's trying to get some sleep. but the, you know, like the side she always sleeps on, somebody is like, maybe like there's a car outside with the headlights on, or there's like a neon sign outside, it's kind of throwing all the light on her so she can't sleep properly. Okay. Anyone else wants to have a go? Hmm? And the other readers also, you see there's a little heart on top of the bed, so it could be that she's suffering from heartbreak too. You see there are two pillows on her bed, so, or is her boyfriend not there? Is he gone? What's happening? Did she go through a breakup? Is she crying? Right? So see, all of like most of you thought, it's like really sad and stuff, but we all kind of built our own story around her, right? So okay, let's see what happens when this is added. What do you guys think now? Now, what do you think it's talking about?
She must be going through some cramps, so that's why she's in that
Okay,
position, that kind of position, to just avoid the pain or just
okay. Do you mean period cramps?
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Come on, no wrong answers, like I said.
Maybe it can be about sleeping peacefully.
Okay. Like, but what about sleeping peacefully? Is it proposing solutions?
Maybe, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anyone else? See, you have a lot more information now in the picture. Come on, one more person. Let's go. Why do you think the rubber duck is there?
I think she's suffering from any physical disease, and that's why the temperature is maybe low. And that duck maybe reminds of that since she's in uh, fever or any physical, then she needs bath, maybe.
Okay. So what's happening? So what happened when you kind of, went from that picture, okay, which just had her, all of you attached this whole story to her, and now when we look at this, it's giving us another story, okay, but it's also giving us an overall idea, okay. So now a lot of you kind of moved away from that emotional meaning to a more physical, right? So what happened is by adding all of this, okay, what do you think happened to the image all of a sudden too? Do you find yourself wondering more about what these little images mean rather than what, the girl and the, tone of light and stuff?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So what happens when you add, sort of, so this is a very abstract way of sort of putting, more ideas or more information. So what happened is that it went from a narrative to a concept. Okay. So here, when I look at this, it reads more as a narrative. The illustrator is telling you a story about, with the mood and the lighting and stuff. So that becomes the main focus. Immediately when he puts these things there, it becomes more of the overall idea of, well-being and physical and like, all of these solutions that maybe he's proposing. So it kind of takes away that meaning you attach to the other. And so one is basically storytelling and the other is basically talking about the more of the idea. So we talk about when we talk about illustration, a lot of times all illustration falls into two main categories. Okay? Right now, a lot of lines are blurred between the two categories, but mostly you can kind of do it in that way. It's like two approaches to illustration. And so when you talk about narrative, if you look at these two, okay, here you have, this boat, two people are sitting there, a cat with books, kind of enjoying the day. There are these seagulls flying over. So you kind of build this whole story around them, okay? It's not telling you anything else, okay? As such, the same thing with this, it's an advertisement for Blue Moon beer. So you see, kind of telling you, the whole idea that okay, there are these two people sitting there drinking beer, probably enjoying the day. You have the surfer actually surfing, so it's putting in what is actually there, okay, representing it basically. So with narrative, it's basically storytelling. Okay, you're just narrating visually. So instead of writing out what's actually happening and describing it, you're drawing it. So if you look at this illustration here, if I were to tell a friend, okay, let's say if this was cafe in Paris or something, if I were to tell a friend, I would be like, oh, there was this building, it had a rooftop and an awning, these arches, with these windows. And there were tables outside on the pavement and umbrellas and all of these like little fairy lights. It was very festive, they had festoons and stuff. Oh, I even saw this like girl walking this like dog down the street, and the dog was like so cute and fluffy, and she had this handbag which is like the latest fashion. I thought it was like she had a cute dress on with like white sneakers, and there was this really nice tree there. Even the rooftop had trees. It was like a palm here, and there one palm that looked like a pineapple. So I'm just describing the scene, but obviously when I draw it out it's much more clear. Okay, so it's basically a literal interpretation or depiction. Okay, it can include, showing the moods, and what we read into it is our own input from. Okay? But it directly relates the idea. So when I described her, that's what this person drew. Okay? It's representational. So more or less, it's an accurate depiction of reality. So when we go back to this one, okay, it's a very stylized form, but you can tell that the human is a human. You can tell the turtle is a turtle. Okay, it's not like so abstract that one person sees it as one thing and the other sees it as the other. Okay? So a lot of times children's storybooks, they have narrative illustrations. So children can actually read better into one sequence after another. Okay? That, oh, this happened and then this happened. So, and this is exactly what it is. So it helps them build like relationships between pictures. So that's how it's used most of the time. Sequential is a part of the narrative. Okay? Uh, let's say comics, okay? They're all narrative. But what happens is with comics, each panel does not tell a whole story. Okay? You have to rely on the one before it and after it to form context. When I showed you that one illustration of the girl, you guys immediately, started telling us about, oh, maybe she's feeling sad. That immediately start attaching a context to it. It's not so much sequential. So with narrative illustration, but with all illustration, you're basically trying to depict one idea or like tell a whole story through one picture. So let's move on to conceptual. Okay. So what do you think is happening on the left?
Ma'am, it's a doctor who's saving us from the coronavirus
Okay. Why do
and
you think
cutting
that?
that thread.
Okay, cutting the fuse. So why do you
Yeah,
think there's a dollar sign?
because it's falling, because it's affecting the economy.
Okay. Okay. So the way they've shown it here is basically used a bomb analogy, right? You
Yeah,
can tell. Yeah, right. So obviously, the coronavirus particle literally doesn't have a fuse, so you can't actually put it. Okay, it's not like totally attached, or like literally attached to the finances, right? It's not even showing money; it's just showing the dollars. And so we have these, what do you call them, metaphors? So using one thing in place of another to show an idea. Okay. So like the dollar sign actually sign, when you put that in, you kind of attach the finances, economy immediately because there's a context there. Okay? So your whole concept kind of ties in together, and you don't really need to draw out, the whole sequence of events of how, if one affects the others. That's really so. Like, a doctor trying to treat a patient, and the patient lost their job, and they had to shut down, let's say his restaurant, and that's affecting, his customers, and that's affecting his employees. So you don't need to show, that whole narrative to get that one idea across that the doctors are helping, diffuse the pandemic situation so that the finances or economy can be stable. What's happening in the one on the right? Come on, that's easy.
Ma'am, she's imagining maybe what her fantasy world is like, and she's living in there.
Okay, what do you think her fantasy world is like?
Something which is very, which is like full of nature, but it's something dark also.
Okay. Do you think the dark is more significant or nature is more significant?
I think the dark is more significant.
Okay. Anyone else? Come on. Look at the image, you see the roses are on her eyes. They have this little red in the center. They're all dark and, kind of like really morbid roses. There are pieces of paper stuck in them. They look like they're torn. Could be a manuscript. It could be a love letter. Oh, this one says telegram. There's like, it says him too.
Ma'am,
So
she's
look,
blindsided by
oh,
like the fantasy world which is being shown by her lover or something.
okay,
Because it's way too dark for the future.
okay. Yes, so a lot of times, see, when you put something on the eyes or something that covers the eyes, if anything, um, it's like you're blinded, okay? That's the context we attach to it. So here, there are two roses, okay? Another symbolic representation that we tie to, love, right? And then the same thing with like, and you see the way it's also drawn, very romantic. And even then you see these pieces of paper. So you immediately start thinking about like, oh, the other idea. And again, the illustrator has used black, a color that we tie with in darkness. Okay. So so basically, instead of actually, let's say, if she had a quarrel with her lover, or her lover was trying to fool her in some way, instead of actually showing her crying or depressed, or like, in a narrative way that she's not listening to, let's say her parents are telling her not to be with him, but then she's just ignoring them and just going away with him, stuff like that. You kind of just show it very poetically by, just covering her eyes with the roses and kind of bring in the whole idea as the hero, as the concept as the hero. Okay? So that's another way to so conceptual with symbolism. Hmm. So what a conceptual actually is, it's a visual metaphor. Okay? So metaphors are basically use one thing and show another. So it's an indirect depiction, okay? And you use one idea or another to inform or explain another. It also includes a lot of symbolism, and you can also use elements that seem narrative, okay? But they come together to give you a different idea or another idea. So let's say this one, for example, this illustration. So this obviously looks like, a market, like Sabji Mandi, you have all of them just lying there, and the lady is trying to decide what to bake, like what to cook for dinner tonight or something. But then when you add the phone there, okay, it brings in the whole other context of online shopping, right? So that one little change immediately changes the whole idea of what it's talking about. So, okay, I forgot to correct that from my previous batch too, but conceptual is most often used in editorial. So this may be an article about, let's say, online grocery shopping, picking up during the lockdown. So this would be an illustration, that goes with the heading. Okay, it doesn't tell you everything that's happening. It's not describing the scene of like the lady, actually using a cell phone to order stuff. Okay? But it brings together these elements that are crucial to the scene, okay, and kind of marries them together in a way that one picture immediately gives you an idea of what the article is about. Okay? So it's basically the headline put into words. Okay. Editorial is like a big market for conceptual, so our posters, okay, because they have to explain an idea with as very succinctly. So with as little information or like as little extraneous information as possible, and deliver a very powerful message. Okay? So let's talk about illustration strategy. So this is like a method of working that, especially for illustrations, but I find very useful in terms of, when you're trying to do art, especially, like I said, there are no wrong answers as such, okay? It depends on individual taste too, whether or not you like some things or not. Um, but when you use when you have to do commercial work, you always have pressure like from clients and things like that. So you need to make decisions very quickly. There are like a million and one options, to choose from. So how do you make decisions very quickly and make sure, sorry, and make sure that they work? Okay, okay, just give me a second, okay? Okay, so with illustration strategy, for our assignments, okay, we're going to follow through with this. Okay, it's part of your grading. It's part of your grading, so pay attention. And please speak up if you do not know or do not understand or have doubts, okay? I will explain it. The previous batch made this mistake. They did not know what was happening with a certain part of the what I explained, okay? Did not speak up that they do not know, okay? But please, I will not tolerate that you come, the day before submission and tell me that, okay, we don't know how to do this, okay? That does not work. You have passing time, you have time right now. So even if you don't understand a little bit, just tell me and I will explain, okay? If necessary, I can do a demo too. Okay? We have time to learn in class. So what we start with is, so I will explain a little bit when I took you through the project, right? So I'm just gonna go through it. Okay, so I begin with ideation and brainstorming. Obviously, when you learn design and foundation, we went through a lot of this. So the way I kind of do it, especially for conceptual, okay. So right now I'm going to show you a little bit of, so our first assignment is going to be a conceptual illustration, okay. Very clean, straight up. Okay? So what I do, especially when I have to create a conceptual piece, is I write down words. So let's see, this one was for Save the Tiger poster that I wanted to do. So right off the bat, I just write up animal conservation and what that means. Sometimes it also helps to kind of like write down synonyms. Okay. even if it not seem stupid, but like what does animal? Like other words for animals, like that. Conservation. What are the other words for it? Just like that. So that kind of keeps on sparking up ideas. Okay? So let's say when I wrote poaching, kind of associated and wrote down everything that I've heard or research that's being put. So like ivory, see, ivory is not related to tigers, but still, kind of get the brain going. So ivory tells for skin trophies. I know this animal has some hung on the walls. Trinkets, a little like boxes and stuff. Horns are supposed for medicines, the rugs. You don't have to type in whatever pops into your head related to it. So just write it all down, okay? So it's there on paper, okay? So when I do that, it kind of sparks a lot of ideas, okay? And sometimes when that sparks ideas, you have to keep two sheets of paper. I think that helps me. So, you just write down words on one or whatever you're thinking, whatever you're searching, okay? The other, just start drawing, okay? Whatever is in your head, put it down on paper, whether it's word or visual at this point. Okay? Then, especially for conceptual, a word group helps me a lot. So, if I zoom in on this, okay, what happens is, so I made this like little grid, okay. So on one side, I kind of wrote all the things that are related to tigers. I have tiger, I have its fur, I have its skin that's made into a rock, teeth and claws, the trophy thing, the bones and skeleton, paws. Paws also lead me to footprint, tigers in the forest. Yeah, I don't even know what this is. These are tiger cubs. Yes. And then on the other side, I have all the things that are kind of harming, okay? Because I'm talking about saving them, so I want to write down the reasons. I want to, basically, my idea is to convince people or like show them what they're not, okay, or not supposed to be. So all of these things that are harming them. Fashion, okay, so you make out coats. I mean, I haven't necessarily seen a lot of tiger skin coats, but still. So, wait, I'm sure how many of you have seen Tiger King? Tiger King, yeah. On Netflix? I mean, you could just speak up and say, I have, I am not. Yeah. People participate. I'm not talking to a screen. Come on.
No, ma'am.
No, none of you have seen it? Really? Oh my God. You guys should see Tiger King. It puts like, a lot of Bollywood movies to shame too with the drama. Okay. But so anyway, like fashion, trinkets, home decor, hunting, guns, knife, whatever comes into my head, that's harming. Put all of that there, okay? And then I know, see, this is a lot of work, but it sparked a lot of ideas, okay? And a lot of good ones too. So I kind of just put in the two words together. Okay. I guess I could do it in an Excel sheet. This also, like putting it down on paper actually helps, like literally with the flow of ideas too. So, and then I kind of went in and circled the one I think work well visually or that kind of, get my ideas sparking. So once I put all of that down, it's just a matter of writing. Okay. Just kind of swap each one around, like, oh, tiger in fashion. What can I draw? Can I draw tiger skin coat? Okay, what does that show? What else can I add to it that, kind of would convince people that this is not the way to, go about it. So things like that. So, wait, if you try and see if I can find the thumbnails. Okay, yeah, I found them. So I'll show you in a little bit. Um, Okay, sorry guys, I think my screen is stopped. Just give me a second. Okay, so basically what I did was, first in terms of ideation, I did kind of market research. So like I explained before to the other project on my website, that it's like looking at what is already there. Okay. So if it works, I would like to take it forward and add to that whole scenario. So like all of these are conceptual posters. These are like shadows that are forming and hands. So a lot of times it also informs me that okay, a negative space and showing things in that context also helps me. Okay. Even this is like basically rethinking or like associating another idea with what is already there. I did all of this research and about all of this great work online, okay? And that's when I started doing the brainstorming. So this is what I showed you in the PDF about, kind of like writing words down. And then I have the whole grid and I circled the ideas that I think spark of visuals, okay? And then I kind of went into the thumbnail and stuff. So a lot of times this was done side by side. So let's say this one was, tiger head is actually night lamp, okay? And the wallpaper behind it shows all of these tigers roaming in the jungle forest. Then there are these stripes there that kind of signify bars. This one is kind of a narrative conceptual in that it's telling you a story, but then it's also a story that is not usually heard. So it kind of talks about the differences. So tiger is on the, I guess, operation table, and this person is wearing a tiger. It's a face transplant of the tiger. Again, it's like more like fashion and tigers. Okay, this one is a fabric that's showing tigers in the forest, and this person is actually cutting out of the tigers. It kind of shows the idea of habitat loss for them. Um, these kind of are things that really don't work that well. Obviously, the concept does work, but it doesn't work that much either in terms of the thumbnail because I have to write a word. So one of the things you want to do with illustration is avoid writing, because that becomes very like relying on words, and what we're trying to do is rely solely on visual. Here it's just fun. Sometimes I just write notes for myself. Okay? So here these are like really expensive shoes. So like Christian Louboutin shoes. They have red soles. Okay? Very very expensive stuff, and a lot of times at the price of like innocent animals. So I'm trying to show that the footprints are actually bloody off. Again, like a flat lay with like other things we take for granted, and uh like all of these things made from tigers are among them, and you kind of treat them as trinkets. So it's part of a lot of ideas that I put down, and I ultimately zeroed in on this one, the flower face one. Okay? They're not home decor, was my idea. So the idea was to show the tiger in its natural environment, that is the forest, but then when you kind of look at it you realize that it's not a forest at all. It's just like a flower vase with flowers and fake plastic foliage. And that was the idea. These were like some other ones where the leaf kind of dries up with the stripes and forms the shadow of the tiger, kind of in distress underneath. Another one was like a poacher hiding in the tiger's eye, and the forest kind of burning up. This was like ripples, a kind of dissipating prints on the water to show the extinction. This was people actually pulling off the tiger's stripes, kind of trying to, hold the reins, how to control horses. Just the references for Chinese. And kind of dip to, we call them line comps, okay? So bring them up to the line work stage. So you're kind of combined line and values. So this was one of the ideas. You see the poacher there, and the tiger's like stripes or markings are actually the forest burning up. Okay. This was supposed to be a poster, so it obviously goes hand in hand with text, but the idea is that it should work, without the visuals. So they're folding the reins and pull them up. And this is the one I actually ended up finishing. So, the tiger is among these leaves, but then as you kind of look down, it comes, like all of it converges into this flower vase, a very ordinary home decor item. Okay, then you bring it to the color comp. And then, yeah, so this is how I work a lot of times. Make individual pieces in watercolor, put them up, and sort of compose it then digitally. Okay, so this is when I did like the first composition, and then I kind of went in and corrected colors and stuff. So this was my final. Okay. So you go from, those little scribbles and words to your final piece. So there's this whole, system that if you follow it, it'll work out well in your favor in terms of decision making. Otherwise, there's a lot of like back and forth. We go back to our presentation. Okay. So another example. So here, okay, so after you have the initialization, you come to thumbnails. Okay? Usually very small, like obviously not literally thumbnails like this much. Okay? And I'm not going to any details in but basically something that fits in the palm of your hand comfortably and leaves room. Okay, 2 by 3 inches, around 2 inches at the shortest side is good. Okay? It gives you enough space to kind of plan out things, and they can be as loose or as detailed as you want. Ideally, the idea is the more you do, the better. Okay, the looser the better, because that kind of frees up your mind that okay, this is not something I've committed. Okay? And the more you like I said, the more you draw, the better. So here, this one was another one that I again looking at the treatment of animals. So I was looking at these. I was reading an article about these necklaces that were made that held water. They were like really big statement pieces, but then it held a little, less than a cup of water. And look at these betta fish in it. Really beautiful fish, with like really flowing fins and stuff. And it was like really, really cruel. Okay, it became a sort of fat. It was really cruel because the fish hardly had any space to swim around. And that also had, this new fad that was starting that people started putting. We have a goldfish bowl. Okay, that in itself is very less space for the for a fish, and it's also circular. Okay? which actually disorients fishes a lot because they have to keep swimming in circles round and round. It disorients them, they keep banging against the glass. So a lot of times if you see fish tanks, the bigger ones, they're actually rectangle. Fish bowls are just, mostly used in advertisements. So they started making them smaller and cuter in ideation. So they started making fish bowls out of light bulbs. So imagine, that fish can come in like a light bulb, very cool. So I wanted to kind of showcase that, and my idea for that was where can I show you to bring light to that subject? Show fishes where they shouldn't be. So a lot of them just started, with explanations like, oh, what if the fishes are kind of swimming around in a forest, right? Not in a lake, in a forest, nothing, just around the trees. So now this whole row you're exploring that, from different angles and stuff. What if it was like, oh, they're on bathroom tiles because you associate them with water, but then they're in a context that's different. So I started up just drawing them literally in bathroom tiles, and then it kind of just sparked up these ideas here that okay, one is on the bathroom bed, the other is coming in from the sink, and then kind of just draw a big one from the sink, or it's coming out from the what do you call it, the faucet or something like that. Okay. Then that kind of just brought me to the other idea. Oh, if it's water, what about fire? So I kind of started throwing them around fire. I think at some point I also had them on candles. And so I had like a couple of candles, I think they were yeah, a row of candles, just like swimming around it. And again, this is like through letter boxes and what if like there. So just like little things that just sparked up ideas. I ended up choosing this because it kind of spoke to me the most in terms of, oh, you should keep birds in a bird cage. Okay? What if there was a fish, like that immediately set up that a lot of people would think, oh my God, you put a fish in a bird cage, So it's like it's unheard of, it seems cool. And then the way you can draw it is like, the fish is really uncomfortably like bending in the bird cage. Right? That's not a thing that you usually can see in terms of an aquarium because you always think, oh, they're happy, they're swimming around, which is not the case. So I took that and then I drew it out bigger. Okay, I drew it with a line curve, right? So I just drew it out here and then so when I do this, I draw it out with the pencil, make it a more refined drawing, sort out proportion problems, etc. I sometimes do end up using Photoshop to actually make things more bigger or smaller just because it's a quicker way to do it. So when you're learning right now, I would not suggest you use Photoshop to do that. Okay, use tracing instead. So what I sometimes do is I would draw the fish separately on one piece of tracing paper, page separately on another piece of tracing paper, bring them together one on top of another. So it's like two layers, right? And then you just shift them around to see what angle works best, how it's supposed to sit in there compositionally. And then you freeze the concept, then take another tracing paper, put it on top, and then draw them together. So once I did that, I think I actually kind of drew half of the cage and then I flipped it and drew the other half so it's more symmetrical. Put the fish in it and redo the whole thing. Okay. Then, I also thought it's better to kind of do it. So the way I guess in a lot of cultures, even in ours, we read things in like literally read from left to right, right? So whenever even visually, that instinct remains intact. So whenever you have a thing, looking from right to left, for a lot of us, it keeps us going backwards rather than facing forward. So from left to right is a good direction. If we want to show the idea of moving forward, or grabbing more attention. So because it literally like, leads your eye this way to move into the next page. So this seemed more right to me visually. So again, I flipped it around. This was a pattern, so I just drew up these roses, whatever. And put them in Illustrator to create a pattern because it quickly gives me that, tool. Obviously, I could just sit and manually draw it out, like all of it again and again. But the idea for me then was to be efficient about my work. Okay, I use that, put it down back behind it, okay, and then kind of redo the whole thing. So I have my line drawing all ready and defined. Okay, so at that stage, I know this is how it works. Okay? Then I do value studies. Now, do you guys know what value studies are? Value comps are?
I'm in grayscale.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, please.
Grayscale what? Can you explain to me?
So basically, just I don't know how to explain, but yeah, if there's a fish, so just adding more value to it or just reducing it to see how.
Okay. So value is basically, very simply put, the amount of light and dark. Okay. So what value does is it separates shapes. Okay? So one thing I want you guys to do is get away from that idea of like, that comic or coloring book style of doing illustration. Okay? You do not need a line to delineate shapes. Okay? Value is your hero here. Okay, that helps you. So if you do not have that black line, okay, so let's just say here, okay, what if I do not have that black line? It's supposed to be just one shape. So obviously it would make more sense if this was a darker gray than this one, okay, to make sure that those two shades stay separate. Okay? Same thing from here. How do I distinguish one flower from another? I change the value, okay, because we do not want to rely too much on the line when we are learning, especially. So with a value structure, you also can decide what the focus of your point is. So right now, okay, let's talk about this one. I have a really dark background and the fish is pretty light. Okay? So that immediately when you kind of put it there, the focus goes there. Here, there's a lighter like background, but no, okay, so let's talk about this one. Sorry. So here, I have the same value for these flowers here as I do with the cage. That kind of merges things for me. Okay, it becomes very busy. It seems to be distracting a little bit. Okay, so go on and try another one. So I put like a lighter background with it has a mid tone for the flowers. Okay, but again, because I put a lighter background, I kind of wanted to make my fish darker, so I tried that. I so if I have a darker fish, I'm like, okay, let me try mid-tone for the cage. I did that, but then if I make the fins white, it creates a very, stark contrast between the two. So I put in a lighter gray there, but it's still not working. The fish doesn't seem like a whole, like object together. Okay. So, okay, like I'm like, okay, that's also not working. So even the clouds, you generally go light and dark with clouds. My instinct is to put in white a lot of times. I'm like, okay, that is also not really helping with my composition. Okay, and then I even here when I look at the cloud here that I put, to balance these out, I'm like, oh, it's only creating a distraction. So we tried the third one. So I put a mid-tone there. Okay. So the background of the wallpaper color is just a step down from the value of the roses and flowers. Okay, I I did keep the birds a lighter thing because I did want them to be a second focus even in the wallpaper. And then I tried a darker one for the cage, the lighter one for the fish. I'm like, okay, that seems to be working better. It's making the whole cage and fish more as the focus and pushing everything back. Okay. So I think I ultimately ended up making a fourth value comp, which worked better, but I don't think I have it here. But then I go from the color to the color. So you should we want to do, how we want to proceed is you take a value comp that works the best for you, and then you add color to it. So the way you add color is it follows the value structure, okay, or it follows the structure of dark and light. So if your cage is the darkest, if you want to put, let's say, a yellow in the cage, when you mix that hue of black with the yellow, it becomes a sort of antique goldish color, right? If I want to make the fish blue, and if I have that, shade of lightness, it makes a very pale blue, light blue fish. Okay, so that's how we're thinking in terms of color from the value structure. That's how it works. So obviously here, I followed the other value structure that I was talking about. That's not there. I'm very sorry about that. But in the end, I kind of thought that I liked this. That was whatever was going on here. That it seemed to be very, festive, so colorful and stuff. And I like the golden the cage. You have that energy of the bird in a golden cage. It should be happy that it's not sort of thing. And like I said, a lot of artists have a color scheme. So for me, blue was the tones I usually went to. So you see a lot of blue going on. So I picked this color comp finally, okay? So what you want to do is actually when you go from, so these are all done digitally because it gives me make quicker decisions. So when you want to go from digital to final, especially when you're starting out with a traditional medium that you're not familiar with, the idea is to stick exactly to what you've done for your color, okay, and your value structure. So if you're not, able to translate that, okay, it's going to be a disaster. So if that is not working for you, okay, I allow the other badge to get a quick hold on value and color digitally, but if that doesn't work for you, what you want to do is take the thumbnails that you drew, okay, or redraw it, and quickly use whatever paints you're actually going to use and work with the value structure with an actual traditional. Okay? So from this, I just kind of finished off and went to the final. Okay, so this was what I finally ended up. Okay, so I did a lot of little studies. This was the first time I was using gouache. Okay, so I did a whole wall of watercolor behind. That's the wallpaper and stuff. And then I wanted a more solid feel or a real feel to the fish. Well, not real as in realism, but more, I guess, tactile or substantial. So I kind of used wash there. Okay? So the wallpaper kind of becomes like this transparent thing, works in washes, and then I ended up removing the clouds completely because this thing was just that extra detail, but that was distracting and I didn't need them. So this is what I finally ended up with. So you see, like I have the fish there, blue, so like a darker tone. This is like a mid tone for the cage. And then the wallpaper is obviously like a lighter color, and you have these, kind of bright flowers, but they are more, I guess, they do have like more duller tones in them. And for the birds, again, I just picked up the yellow and blue wash tones, and just change them around. So that's one bird there, other one there, the third one down there below. So, yeah, so this piece is kind of titled, at least the birds are free. So it kind of talks about, the fish being trapped or being, misused. And she's kind of like thinking, like, oh, at least the birds are free. But then little does she know that, she's kind of just as stuck in the wallpaper as she is in the case. We have a fish hook there, with a cropped off in the final, but a fish hook there, it's actually holding up the cage rather than, a normal hook. Okay, so let's go to the assignment. Wait, do any of you have any questions? Yes, no? Any question?
Ma'am,
Yeah?
ma'am, in the value comp you showed for this illustration, the
Yeah?
wallpaper had the dark shades, right? The in the middle one. Like,
Yeah.
do you use that one or this means out of this three, which was the value comp of the final artwork?
So that's what I said. Like, I think I did a fourth one, okay,
Okay,
which I don't have on here, but the first one is the closest to the value comp I used. See,
okay, ma'am.
okay,
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
have like a lighter, but background, and then
Yes,
more tonier, and then like a slightly darker fish. And this is also lighter because it's more transparent, the print. So if I go
yes,
back
ma'am.
to the value, see, that's what is happening. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so when you do a value comp, the more detail you put in it, in terms of dark and light, it will help you resolve things more. Okay. Uh, Obviously, I have a more practiced eye because I've been doing this for a long time. So for me, this was enough to move forward. Okay.
One more thing, for wallpaper you use the floral print one, and so don't you think there is floral print plus the cage has the golden color, so it is a bit disturbing.
It is, but my idea was to also, kind of show that, oh, there's like a celebratory spirit going around. So I kind of used like a little, see, what I wanted to show was at some point my idea also tweaked a little bit. Okay. So I did want to show like, not just like, a spot illustration, okay, that, oh, it's just like a bird cage and the fishes in there. But I wanted to show the context of it. So I kind of imagine this in like a suburban, in a Western household, and they have a lot of like floral prints going on. So kind of take that idea of that wallpaper forward in terms of that the birds that I put there would be a second read. Okay, so fish is my main focus, but the birds are a second read, and it kind of mixes the two together. So see, when you look here, okay, the bird kind of seems that, oh, it's also in the cage, right? So like the idea for me at that point was to kind of bring in that chaos too, that okay, is the bird actually in the cage or not? Is that a real bird or not? Is it a wallpaper or not? So it kind of prompts all these questions, okay, and start, get it going as a conversation piece that, okay, what is also the fish doing in the cage? And see, like the hook, the fish hook that I put there as well, it's a very minor detail, that kind of may also go unnoticed. So sometimes it's also about adding, an extra meaning, okay? But obviously, I feel like if I were to redo this again, I would tone down the wallpaper. Okay? Maybe I would make the birds bigger. I would have maybe, make them like more tropical birds flying. Okay? So that was my idea when I did that. Does that like answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, I do agree with you that it is busy a lot, but when I showed you all of my work, I like drawing a lot of little things coming together and putting in a lot of detail. That is not necessarily the way how everybody works. Okay? So you have to have your process. The only thing is have a reason for why you're putting it. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's go to the first assignment. Um, the first assignment, I want you to think conceptual. Okay, so basically look at conceptual illustrations. You can Google them, you find a lot of them, and a lot of times, yes, okay. Let me just talk about the details of it first, in terms of deliverables. So we're going to work with a final of like 8 by 10 inches. Okay, so it's not too big. You can do it like, about this much. I don't want you to get overwhelmed and have enough time to finish it and actually, go through the whole process so you come up with a good finished piece. Okay. Of course, we're going to be using a traditional medium of choice. Okay. in color, so I don't want any black and white or grayscale. What I finally want from you at the end is a PDF that has all of these things. So a couple of pages of your ideation process. So even if it's like scribbles, whatever words you're writing, just put them all in there, like a photo. Okay. I want you to do 15 to 20 thumbnails. Okay. It doesn't matter how good or how rubbish they are, just do them. Two line comps. Okay. So from the thumbnails to the line comps, you can choose two ideas of the thumbnails and make like just bigger sketches. So when we work with 8 by 10, the thumbnails would ideally be good at 2 by 3 inches. Okay? And then you can do the line comps either at 8 by 10 or smaller, not thumbnail small, but maybe 4 by 5, but keep it proportional to the original size. Again, so we do not set up expectations that we cannot do in our final. Okay? After you do the two line comps, you pick one from that, okay, and do at least two value studies. And be mindful of what values you're putting in. Be mindful of why you're making this dark or why you're making this light. Okay? From that, pick the one that works the best in terms of what you want your focus to be, what you want your idea to be, and move on to a color comp. So we're going to do at least 2 or 3 color schemes. Okay, so try and make sure that you keep your colors to a minimum. Maybe use 3. Okay, if you want to make it colorful, by all means, but make sure that you're using colors that work well with each other, okay, and not just like really loud complementary colors. Okay, Google your color wheel again, okay, brush up on that, okay, color theory, and that will help you a lot. And from the color comps, you have all your pieces in place. So when you put your final illustration down to work, you already know what you're going to do. So your thinking is all done, and then you just have to sit and paint. Okay. So the prompts we have now are loud, quiet, and secret. Okay. Now I said I want you to think conceptually. So do not go the way or try not to go the way that your previous batchmates did. Okay. So when you say loud, I do not want you literally drawing a screaming person. Okay. Or if you do that, put in a conceptual twist to it. There should be a second read to it, a second meaning attached. Okay. Same thing for quiet and secret. Okay. So what I did for this was, okay, 1 second. So I wanted kind of to, all of you to think of it in a way that, oh, what if this is a magazine cover? Just give me a moment, please. Just need to plug in my laptop. Okay. So think of it as like, going on a magazine cover. One of those really cool indie magazines you have that don't have a lot of text on it. So your illustration can be the focus, okay? But the idea is that your illustration should be loud, quiet, or secret without it having to be there. Yeah, okay? So I just made these little templates for you guys, okay? So if at the end you want to mock up your illustrations, okay, or like the New Yorker cover showed, if you want to kind of, tie in the masthead with the illustration, you can work with those. They're all in a Drive folder, and you can, I'll share a link. CR, did you make a group yet or add me to the group on WhatsApp?
Yeah, ma'am, I did. I'll add you.
Okay, so I can just put a link to my drive there, right? To the folder, so you can access that. So I'll put those there and you can access those if you want to use them. These are like little templates I made for the thumbnails. Okay, they are like approximately 2 by 3 inches, and they have the little word there. Obviously, if you have a printer, you can just print these out on printer paper and draw, start doing your thumbnailing on. These are the box here for writing notes, whatever. I'll put them in as well. If you want, so I'll also put in a blank one, so you can just work on that if you want. Otherwise, sketchbook, paper, whatever you're using, do your initial sketches, just draw a grid and start working from it. Okay? So in my sketchbook, when I want to sketch anything mostly, I always keep like a few pages drawn with like grids, so I can immediately start drawing in proportion. Okay? Again, this is not a compulsion. Yeah, it's not a compulsion to actually use whatever format grid that I'm giving with the word. Okay, this is just if you want to do it. Of course, I feel it would be easier. I think going from your previous methods, that just working on the illustration without having to worry about the text right now is maybe better. But I leave it up to you. Okay, does anyone have any questions so far? Anyone? About the assignment, about, what I've related so far, any?
Ma'am, so out of the three words, we can choose any or you'll assign us the
No,
word.
I'll be assigning the words. Okay, so I'll get back to you on those in a little bit. I'll just put them in the chat here, okay, to everyone, so you have them there. Um, and what we are going to do is, okay, so I'll need at least 5 minutes to do that. Okay, so you guys can just like take a break, freshen up, whatever. And I'll just start putting the prompts there. So once you have a prompt, you can start researching, referencing, whatever. The PDF is also, let me just send you a link to the drive here. So the presentation PDF is also in there. So if you want to go through it, and if you feel you have any questions after, that's fine too. So just do that first. Okay, so I just posted a link in the group. If anybody wants to, just make sure that you guys can access stuff, can you please let me know? Okay, someone just, I'm not going to have the CR do everything. Some of you do need to take the initiative. Just because he's the CR doesn't mean he has to be responsible for it. Okay? And for those of you who actually don't speak up and are very shy, these are little things that you can actually do and just speak up and talk. Guys, anyone? Come on, just click on the link I posted in chat and tell me if you can access it. It's already.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. See, that wasn't hard. Okay. Okay, I don't want you guys leaving yet. Okay, you can just, kind of do your own thing for the next 5 minutes, and I'll get back to you with the prompts. And once you have those, like I said, start doing the whole process, the strategy that we just showed you that works best. Just start doing that and ideation. And I really do want to see some thumbnails after break, but I'm going to give you guys more time. So we'll meet around, we'll break at 12:30, okay? Till then, you guys start working in class. You can ask me whatever questions you have. We break at 12:30. We meet back at 2, okay? And then we work in class from 2 to 3, and we will discuss things at 3, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna get back to you in 5 minutes.